Hey, what's up? I'm Chris. I am a Canadian kid, although obviously right now I am not in Canada. I'm in Florida, and I'm not here on vacation either. Actually, I live and work down here, which is pretty freaking awesome. I know people in Canada right now are starting to get depressed that fall and winter are coming. In Florida, it's almost a little bit of a relief. I like the hot weather. A lot of people down here wait for it to get cool. And by cool, I mean like 24 degrees during the day. So that's coming pretty soon. So one of the number one questions I get asked is, how did you get down here? You know, I've been down here working for about 2 years now. I lived in Orlando for almost a year, and now I'm here in the St. Pete area. So if you want to know where that is, it's Tampa. Tampa's got a big peninsula on kind of the Gulf Coast, and then there's a breakwater island that's super long and skinny that goes down the west side of St. Pete and Clearwater. It's many miles long and like less than a mile wide. It's really cool. It's called a breakwater island. I live in Treasure Island, so that's kind of near 3/4 down to the south end of that island. So it's pretty awesome. I'm about a hour away from work, which is pretty nice. But people ask me, how did you get down here? And so this I'm going to share you with how I got down is probably the easiest way to work and live in the United States as a Canadian long term. And when I say easy, we're talking about big air quotes here, and I'll explain why in just a sec. So just FYI, I'm probably at the skinniest point of this island right now. This is what they call the intracoastal waters. So on the other side of the shore here is St. Petersburg and Clearwater, which is across the Tampa Bay from the city of Tampa. And then over here, if you look, we're gonna walk over there in a second. That's the Gulf of Mexico. So you can see exactly how skinny this island is. It's wide enough for a marine, like some docks, a nice street, which this is Gulf Boulevard. It's so great to drive up and down. And then of course a couple of condos and houses, and then it's the Gulf and the beach. Say hi to Kobe. This is my Shelby Cobra, which, you know, I'm very fortunate to be able to drive to and from work every day. And to hockey. Believe it or not, there's hockey in Tampa. So there are other ways to get down and work in the States legally, different types of permits. I will go into those in more detail in another video. One of them is actually a little simpler and a little easier, but it is a non-immigrant visa. So that is very important. That's the TN visa. There's some other stuff with the TN visa that could be changing. So like I said, if you're interested in learning more about the different types of visas, different types of work permits for Canadians, like, subscribe, comment. You can ask me questions through the comments, or ask, you know, if you want to see a different type of video or a video on something else, I'll definitely do that for you too. But in this video, like I said, I'm going to focus on the one that got me down here, and that is the L1 visa. So specifically the L1A visa. There is an L1A visa, and then there's also an L1B visa. The L1A visa is for managers and executives, and the L1B visa is for a specialized worker. So specialized workers are people who are doing a high level job, they're highly skilled at a particular task or workflow, and that is what allows them to come work here, not just from Canada, but from all over the place. Canadians have it a little bit easier. We don't have to actually get a visa, although it's commonly called a visa. We already have an agreement with the United States. What we need is a work permit. people from, say, India, not only they have to get their L1A or L1B to come work down here, but they also have to go through customs and immigration and get their visa. So that's a separate process, and that's where a lot of them get snagged. We're kind of express here in Canada, and I say express with a grain of salt because it took me from when I decided I wanted to be down here to actually get down here. It took me almost 4 years, 3 or 4 years. So, well, maybe that's a lie, 3 years, which is still a long time, and it did take a lot of effort. So we don't have to worry about the visa portion. I'm under an L1A, and so basically what that is if you are working for a Canadian company, or like I said, a different country's company that has a subsidiary in this country, and you are a manager level and you can demonstrate that, and some of the parameters for that is like, if you're a flatline manager, you have to control a complete department and the workflows contained within, or if you manage a group of people, that is also acceptable. You have had to have been a manager in Canada for your company for at least 1 year previous to applying for this visa. The company has to have a branch where you're moving, obviously, or has to be setting up a branch. That's also something which is a little bit different. The other difference between an L1A and an L1B from like a TN or an EB1 or those ones are it's a dual intent visa. I'm going to say visa. I know it's interchangeable with permit, which basically means you can come down here just intending to stay for a couple of years and work, help set something up, develop, your branch down here, and then go back to Canada, or you can intend to immigrate permanently. Now, here is the tricky part about this visa. You cannot come down here with the intention of living here permanently, becoming a permanent resident and a citizen. I know it's dual intent. That is the kind of massaging about this work permit that makes it a little bit tricky. If you went into your interview, you'll be interviewed. I can go a little bit more into that in a different video. When you're interviewed, they may ask you, like, so what, you're gonna go down there and move and settle down and buy a house? If you say yes, you will be rejected, and you will lose your $900 that you paid to go through the process, plus all your legal fees from lawyers, and I'll get into that a little bit more as well. So you can't intend to live here permanently when you move down. So for me, I wasn't intending to move down here permanently. I wanted to come down and live and see what it was like. So I qualified for this visa. The other thing that you need is you need your company to sponsor you. They have to fill out the forms. They have to demonstrate that they had everything that's needed. They show their financials. They show how long they've been here and how long they've been in Canada, and then they demonstrate what you do, why it's important. But like, again, for Canadians, it's a little less of a harsh vetting process because your paperwork will be vetted by a Border Patrol agent, either at the physical border between Canada and the United States, or at an airport where obviously there's always US Customs. So this is a Customs and Border Patrol officer who, is probably not extremely well versed in immigration law, but if your lawyer's good, they know the people who are working, say, at the airport, and they can tell them in advance, I have my clients coming to, vet their L1A or L1B at the airport. He's got a flight, so can you please arrange, or when can we come in, so that somebody who knows what they're doing will be able to look through the paperwork and ask the questions. So that's what happened in my case. So you can also go down at the physical border, but the difference between the airport and the physical border is even less border guards at the physical border will know what they're doing. So you have a real opportunity of somebody not knowing what they're doing, denying your claim, and all that money goes down the toilet, because once you've been denied, it's much more difficult to get approved later. So if you do it at the airport, you got more skilled people, and there's also a time crunch. You come 2 hours before your flight, you've already got your bags packed, they vet you, and you're on your way. They stamp your passport, which I'll show you a picture of, and you're on your way on your flight. So I actually had some business here, and I actually had to secure an apartment as well. So I flew down, and I got vetted at the border, at the airport by the border guard, and then I flew down. I did some work, and then I looked for an apartment, and then I flew back, grabbed my car, grabbed all my stuff, and actually came down. So that is the way I did it. So now actually I'm pretty excited. I've just started the permanent immigrant portion, so I'm going for my green card now, which is really exciting. I'm pretty pumped about that for sure. It's not going to take too long. Luckily, if you go on the US government website, for each different type of green card, each one is connected to a different situation. And some of these green cards, like for some E classes, I may be wrong about that, some other classes, the wait can be up to 4 or 5 years because they have such a backlog. They only give a certain amount of availability every year of green cards for each category. Luckily, the L category has instant availability. So once my company, they have to once again sponsor me and say, yes, we have a permanent position for him down here. Here's all the paperwork. Once they submit that paperwork, I can apply for my green card and there'll be pretty much no wait. So I'm pretty excited. There is one point I'm gonna make though. If you do get down an L1A or an L1B and you decide you want to stay, because of course you haven't determined that yet, right? You're down here temporarily and then you decide you want to be permanent. But if you decide you want to be permanent and you decide you want to live down here, you can start the process, but do not start the process recommended before 1 year is up, because then they can call into question what your true intent was. And then you also can't wait past 2 years, because the funny thing is, there is a specialized green card that is connected to the L1, which is almost like an express. It makes it a lot easier, but the parameters are you must have lived in your home country for one of the past 3 years. So I'm gonna hit my 2 years here in March 2019. So I've started the process now so that there's no delay and that I fit into all the different parameters. That's it. That's how I ended up down here in beautiful Florida, living, working, and working on getting my green card. How much did it cost? Well, I'm going to save that for another video. So like and subscribe. Click the little notification bell so that you know when the next video is coming up. If this stuff is interesting to you, I'll tell you how much it costs for me to get down here. I'm talking about all the paperwork and everything. You know, what I did with all my stuff. Also some of the other types of visas and ways to get down here. We'll go over those as well. And you know, some other videos like cost of living in Florida. Also, of course, I was in radio for 15 years, so I'll probably do some videos on that. Maybe some things you didn't know about radio, some secrets they might not want me to tell you, and some tips and tricks for actually winning radio contests. All coming up. Thanks for watching.